Okay, I guess we can start now if you like.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mickey, and we're glad everyone's here. A few things to remember: it's not an AA meeting, it's simply one member's take on the exact nature of the wrong that we find on page 64 of our glorious big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not an all share meeting, though share there will be, but actually a question and answer with Paul. And this morning, we're going to go back to our old friend fear, starting on the bottom of page 67. Let me get my book close. You got it, Paul?
Yes.
Notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion train of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did we not ourselves set the ball rolling? Sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We're in the world to play the role He assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us and humbly rely on Him. Does He enable us to match calamity with serenity? We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. We ask Him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what He would have us be. At once, we commence to outgrow fear. Ta-da!
Thank you, hon. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Welcome, everyone. Obviously, this is some of the meat of the program. And I have a little problem with the word fear, how it's used, not in the book, but how we use it. I believe the cause of the fear in most of our experiences is mental anxiety, truly. So fear is an emotion that usually gets triggered when there's an apparent threat, but the head has learned it can trigger it without an apparent threat by making up threats in the head, yeah? And because this subjective experience, it doesn't matter if there's a boogeyman in the closet. If you think there is, you're going to live in fear. Yes. So basically, the dreaming overrides any fact of this place. Yes. So you would look at someone and their situation on paper, and they should be chilled out, but they're in one of their giant rooms flipping out. Why is that? Because something overrides what we call the real world, and it is the subjective experience. Yeah. So this is what confuses people. They look at certain other people and they look like the belief from the person who doesn't have it says, well, if I had all that, I would be totally chilled out. Yeah. But because I don't have it, I'm not chilled out. And then you see someone who has it all and they're completely fucked in a lot of ways. And it's confusing because we believe a lot of stuff that's really not believable if you look into it. And so this is a subjective experience. And the dilemma we're seemingly under is of the mental variety. Yeah, it resides in the mind. So I would say for most of us, the constant stirring of the fear pot is done by mental anxiety, and that's faith in the mental. Yes. So when you're relying on self, look at this world. If you're relying on self and you're at the airport, you're not relying on self. You're relying on the airlines, yeah. And then they cancel or this or that, and then you're in a completely flipped out, just it just goes crazy. And then you have a lot of grievances and because you're really not living in a reliable world. Yeah. You're dependent on tons of stuff. Yeah. And that which you're taking yourself to be is what you're most dependent on. And it's not managerial quality. Yeah. It doesn't have really that much juice. And therefore, that underlying fear is warranted because we're relying on something that's not reliable. But the head plays that fear like an instrument, yeah, to reinforce the reliance on the failed system. Yeah. It has a story behind every fear, and it's usually someone else did something, or yes, on and on. And perhaps there's a better way. It just described it in here. So where was it? On page 67, right? We just did that. I lost it already, but oh yeah, notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside. They're talking about the fourth step inventory, obviously, yeah? The 4-column thing that they have a little description of it on a page before. So basically, their examples were with Mr. Brown and the employer, and it's talking about this fear as sort of like a thread that runs through the fabric of our existence. Yeah. And that thread is sort of like a string on an instrument, and the head's playing that thread of fear, producing a certain chronic anxiety. Yeah. So we're relying on what's unreliable. We're not facing up to that. And then we're trying to find excuses and denial and everything else to deal with that elephant in the room, literally. Yeah. And what happens for some of us with the bottom, you're brought to that point, and have a lot of times I was totally screwed, but there was a part of me that was above it and observing it. When I had the bottom, all of what I thought I was in the box. Yeah. That observer that never got dirty was dirty. It was in there. and it collapsed. It was incredible. Yeah. That one little thing of you somehow being above it all kept the fucking disease going in my life, on and on. And then the bottom actually was hermetically sealed, and all of what I thought I was in that box. It was there. And at that moment, something whacked. Yeah. There was the complete admittance of a complete collapse, the feeling that the giant foot of God was going to squish me, not getting squished, exhausted by all that denial of all that fucking time, a fucking great exhale of relief, and fucking walked out of that trailer and called Delancey Street. And then it set me off on a course, and I ended up at my first meeting that night. Unbelievable, really, literally unbelievable. But all the other times, that idea of being the observer that I was on a bottom was keeping me actually from the bottom. Yeah. And then when that little part that used to always escape got caught in that vacuum, something happened. Yeah. Now, I don't know what it is for you, but I know what it was for me. It was this aspect of observing as it was narrating the war, but never got shot at in the war. Yeah. And it finally got nabbed, and that opened up a possibility. Is that essential? I don't know, but it was where I was sitting. Yep. I had no idea. I always had a narration of my demise. At that moment, there was no narration. I was fucked, like completely. It was awesome in a way, real way. I had no idea that was possible. Never did. So here, it's talking about one of the things that keeps that. If you were completely buried, there would be a little of this head outside of that. And it would have a story about being buried. Yeah, it would. This is the mental escape route. Yeah. It's a subjective experience, and it can always disassociate from whatever's happening, or usually. But to me, it was when it was completely caught, that was sort of the end of things and the beginning of a lot of other things, yeah, which was sobriety for me. That was the beginning of sobriety. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say this is the like fear. It's a thread that runs through the fabric of our existence, and the head's managing our existence is playing that string, yeah, twanging it all the time, and we're living under almost like how people are doing mini doses of LSD now. It's like we're getting a mini electrocution all day, yeah, by the head. It's just, you know, you may have a couple more links on the leash, but it always pulls you back. You're still fucked. Yeah, and like this, yeah. It's insane. It's like now you can walk a little bit farther from the master, but you're still being held by the master on a leash. Yes. This is the bondage of self, I feel. So it was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. What? Yeah. So the fabric of our existence is probably going to be the fabric of our existence. Yeah. But maybe we need some dyeing, like a DYEING, a dyeing of our fabric. Yeah. To wash out the color of this fear. Yeah. And this is what the program does with the inventory and everything. Yeah. So it's set in motion. It doesn't say you set in motion. It's set in motion. Yeah. So fear is one of the drivers of us. As the driven, we are driven by fear or mental anxiety quite a lot. Yes. Whoa. Emergency alert. Earthquake. Wow. Hold on to something. In California. That's what I just said. You know what? I think I'm going to hold on to this book. Yes. I'm going to hold on to the program. Yeah. So here we go. It was an evil and corroding thread. It set in motion trains of circumstances. You did not set in motion the trains of circumstances. It did. Will you please start pointing to the real criminal and stop taking the rap for the rest of your life? Can you possibly entertain that possibility that you were driven, you are not the driver? So there's no name in that other than fear, yeah? Fear, set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune. So, yeah, we received the misfortune. That which brought us the misfortune doesn't receive the misfortune. We get hit by the misfortune. And being confused, and in one state, being in spiritless servility to this thing, yes, we take it to be us that did something, but we didn't. It set in motion, fear, set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us. So here we're the us, we are the driven. Yeah. The fear is the driver. The driver has set off a train of circumstances that brings us misfortune. We did not bring us misfortune. It did. Yeah. Which brought us misfortune. We felt we didn't deserve. Yeah. And I'm telling you, that's a valid fear. Because in a sense, we don't deserve it because we didn't do it. Yes? We're being done to by something, and we take the role that we're doing it to ourselves. This is insane. How are you going to recognize the exact nature of the wrong if you keep calling the parasitical movement your movement? It's not going to happen. Yeah? You're going to be walking around feeling guilt about shit you did while under the influence, shit that happened while being driven by fear. But did we see? This is where I disagree with the download here. But did not we ourselves set the ball rolling? I do not believe we set the ball rolling. Yeah. I believe we're the ball that rolls. I do not believe we set the ball rolling. I believe the fear set the ball rolling. Yeah. So this ownership, I know it's important if your life as getting loaded was a total irresponsible one, but you can't keep carrying this mutated idea of responsibility through the fucking the trial of what has defeated you. Yeah. How can you end up with the verdict of you hate yourself? That's insane. Yeah. So where if no matter how short or how long there's a you, it's the you that hates yourself. This is insane, I feel. This doesn't need a handcuff. We're doing it in a way to ourselves. Or we're allowing it to happen without, because I feel because without knowledge of it, it goes on. Yeah. Like it says in a lot of the book, it says, and it describes all of these effects, and it starts with without knowing it. Yeah. So without knowing it, a lot of stuff's happening to the ball, and we're getting pushed, and whatever we hit, we think we did it. Yes. This isn't, I just don't see it. But did not we ourselves set the ball rolling? No, I don't believe that. Sometimes we think that fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. Well, in a way, your moment is stolen, yes? The moment of this life that maybe you have a big story of how precious it is being stolen and in each moment. Wow. It's telling me get away from coastal waters. Move to high ground or inland now. All right. I've already done that. Yeah. This is sort of like if you're feeling the sense of relief from the bondage of self, you're praying for relief from the bondage of self, maybe reinforcing the bondage of self. Yeah. So I am not going to try to move inland. I'm inland. I'm not going to try to move to higher ground. I'm at higher ground. Yeah. How more inland can I be? Novato. You have to become conscious. I am. You've got to stop doing stuff. I did. You got to wait a minute. There's got to be more requirements. You got to be super great. No, it just says performance works well. You got to stick to it like glue. I can't be far from everywhere. So basically, I fulfilled all the requirements. Let me see. Let's make up some more requirements. Oh, that problem is talking to you. It wants to pass as you, but you got to ask for its papers sooner or later. You got to stop it. Because if you keep letting it in through your border, it's gonna live as you. It's gonna tell you a story about your life, and you'll sign up like a subscription to that story. And you may end up being incredibly right, but super alone in this world. Yeah. To me, this is bondage of self, drinking or not drinking. All right, so where we are here. Oh, we reviewed our fears thoroughly. Yeah. I would say we review fear thoroughly because you're not going to thoroughly review your fears. You're not. You're not. You're going to be hiding them. You're going to be rationalizing them. You're going to be protecting them. Yeah. So we review our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. Why is that? Because if you ever did the 4-column thing in the fear inventory, you have the fear, but you don't know why. The second column sometimes is empty. Yeah. I'm afraid of destitution, but I'm not destitute. So why do I have a fear of destitution? Yeah. So where resentment, you usually have something in the second column. You know who fucked with you, or the meter maid, or the government, or whatever. But in the 4 columns of the fear inventory, the second column doesn't usually have anything there. Yeah. Because it's all been made up in the head, so to speak. So we put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves, this is something you can do right now. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? So wait a minute. He's saying self-reliance is what's giving the opportunity of the chronic fear. The fear isn't promoting more self-reliance, though it does. It's the self-reliance which is the cause of the fear. Wow, isn't that revolutionary in a way? The self that we're relying on is the one that says it's getting imposed by fear, but in fact, it's the source of the fear. Why? Because it's failed. And you think it was just a mistake in one day? I say it's evidence of a failed system. Yeah, I don't believe it was just a bad day for the head. I believe the head is not managerial quality. I don't. Yeah. So it says it. This is one of the clearest diagnoses in the book. Why do you have so much this fear? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed you? There you go. Close the book. Sit there. Self-reliance was good as far as it goes. Yeah, self-reliance is good as while everything else is going well. Yeah, like the planes are on time, this and that. Once a little thing pops out of position, it's all hell breaks loose. Yeah. And what does it do? It never learns by all the evidence that highlights its unmanageability. It will just say, if I can only manage better, it would have worked out. Yes? Isn't that insane? How long are you going to buy that one? But it didn't go far enough. Some of us had great self-confidence. Again, the word self, yeah? It's not saying great confidence, great self-confidence. So we have trusted self, yes? Confidence in self would be trust in self. Yeah. This whole presentation here is there's two ways. Perhaps one of them is better. Yeah. There's the way of trusting finite self or trusting the infinite. That's basically it. Yeah. The program will allow us to migrate from trusting the finite self to a new basis called trusting the infinite. By what? Realizing self is not trustworthy, I hope. Yes? It didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other problem. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so, for we are now on a different basis. What is that different basis? Yeah, we've done the third step, or it's doing us now. We're on the basis of relying on a higher power. Yeah. For we are now, so it's already the condition's already there, knowing it or not. You are now on a different basis. Now you can keep hearing the old news and the old ideas, or you can start listening to the new music that's being played. Yep. Yeah. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God, which means not trusting and relying on self. That's what it means. Yeah. How it looks when you're relying on God is more easily seen. You're not relying on self. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in this world to play the role he assigns. Your seed assignment, yeah? That's where we came up with that idea. Just for the just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he match whatever the serenity, match calamity with serenity? So basically, the higher power mops up the problem the fucking lower power produces. Yeah. So now instead of matching calamity with more calamity, you match calamity with serenity and you get different results. Yes. It sounds like we're on a new way, a new basis. Yeah. Our our 180 degree has been moved. We're seeing it differently. Fantastic. Yes. And it can go on and on. Some of us have been seeing it differently for 36 years, 40 years, 50 years, some 50 minutes, couple of hours, couple of months. Yeah. But the possibility of seeing it differently is always there right now. Yeah. So, yeah, I would maybe get a rough idea that what we're calling fear is mostly mental anxiety. Yeah. It gets cooked up in the head and then it plays the string of fear because that's part of our instrument. Don't you know? Fear is a valid emotion. It's built in so that we could fight or take flight. But the head is playing it and doing like a long fucking solo, like Inagata Davida on guitar. Yeah. It's just, it's incredible. So, Uh, there is relief. There is a solution. It's not for self. It's from self. It's not for self. You don't gain interest in self. You lose interest in self. Yeah. You don't get, I have a newfound, pure, clear, unadulterated interest in self. It's going great. No, it's based on a loss of interest in self. Pivots right on page 63, losing interest in self, then all these incredible things start to happen. But the dam that's not allowing them to seem to be apparent or actualize is the dam of obsession with self. Yeah. So we lose interest in that dam, the water breaks through. Yeah. And now we feel anew. Yes. We feel a conscious presence, a new power flow in. All of these effects are now readily available. As if they weren't, they were available, but we weren't. Yeah. Now we have become available to what is available. Yeah? The unsuspected inner resource is your eternal well of life. Yeah. You drink from it every day. And you drink from these principles every day. Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't that you didn't hear it, but the phone goes way off when it's like a natural disaster. Yes? A lot of people live with that going off like every 5 minutes in their head, you know? Interrupt, and then it says, you're gonna be fucked forever, you'll never be loved. It's on lower ground, higher ground, you're gonna be fucked, doesn't matter. And you're walking around, and then it's the news broadcast. Yeah. Jeez. It's like getting electrocuted all day. Jesus Christ. It's just, you're just walking around, everything's fine. Now that may continue, but the volume that you think it has will go down because it's all based on your interest, really. Yeah. The head doesn't have like 20 Marshall amps behind it. It can't, it's the audience that makes it sound loud. Don't you see? We are attention and interest. Given to the head allows those emergency interruptions every 5 minutes, makes it have that sound to us. It's our interest in it. Yes? This is what we're not getting a new pair of shoes in this program. We're not getting a new wardrobe. We're getting a whole new basis. Yes? Because it's us. In a weird way, we're used to facilitate the problem. We are not the problem, but we are used to facilitate it. Yeah. And you're not here to convince the characters in the play. You're here to be convinced as the audience. Yeah. We're the audience, and we can lose interest in this play called Paul all day. We can. It's boring to begin with. Yes? When you start losing interest in it, all the battles you think are going to have to be waged, all the wrestling matches, all the dark nights of the soul, all the intense, enormous lengths I have to go to may actually appear to be nothing, literally. When it says go to any lengths, one of those lengths would be no lengths, isn't it? It says any length. One of any length would be no length. Yeah. This is what I found. I haven't been demanded of much at all. Seriously. Remember when you read that? You have to be willing to go to any lengths. And then the only way you could compare it to is what you would do to get a drink or drugs. Yeah. How you would debase yourself, prostitute yourself. So you were thinking, man, fuck, I'm going to have to go to a very long length. Any length means any lengths. And one of the any lengths is no length. Yeah. We're under new management, man. The play that seemed to be a Shakespearean tragedy is a comedy. Yes, it's a satire. It's completely overwhelming, but not serious, as the shirt I have says. Oh, well, I just try to express how I feel about it all. Yeah. I'm not, I just can't, I don't want to keep signing up that I'm the source of all my problems or I'm the one who's manufacturing misery. I think I am used to manufacture misery. Yes. And that sense of being used can be the greatest sense of all. When you feel like you're being used by the higher power, there's almost no joy like that. Yes. You know, when you're there speaking to other people and a light is coming on in them and you're just feeling so joyous to be used, yeah, by this higher power. It's not like I don't feel spiritless servility at all. I feel enriched, yeah, being awake and being used and having a seat assignment. Yeah, I do. Yeah, so all right. Thank you, Mickey.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Do you know, Paul? I I see that last sentence on the bottom of page 67. To
Yeah.
me, it's saying, but did not we as ourselves? That ourselves
Yes.
is a biggie. Did not we identified as ourselves set the ball rolling?
Yes, that's very good. Yes. I would say that's a very good description. Yes. If you separated the word our and selves, yeah,
Yeah,
it would be ourselves. Yes,
exactly,
that's how
exactly.
yes. Yeah, exactly. That's what sets the ball rolling. Yeah. Well, it's a feeling that was new at one point in my life. It's now very familiar. So we're trying to talk to maybe that new feeling here with a familiar tone because it's very familiar. But when it occurred, when I started seeing it, it was quite new, obviously, because I actually believed I was manufacturing my own misery. I was the one that set the ball rolling. I, and how when that preconceived bias, when I would read the book, I wouldn't miss what was being said in the book or how you could read it. I would keep reading it as if I was the cause of all my own misery. And that did not have a long shelf life in recovery. It was seen through very quickly, yeah. And then actually to me it was seen as the source of really all the problems. Is this identification that we keep rolling with being identified as that which has defeated us. It's just yeah.
Sure, it's that false identification.
Yes.
That's what I perceive the word self to be, is that false identification and the attachment to it.
Yes. Well, the head is addicted to it. So that's the head is quite attached to the idea of self for sure. It's to me,
Well,
that's the biggest addiction is that. Yeah.
sure, my head had plenty of conditioning before, and that was the uncomfortability, that was the pain that caused um, me to pick up in the first place.
Yes, of course. Yep. And then it claims that, and now you're the drug user.
And oh yeah, and then I'm the user, I'm the I am totally attached to it.
See, that's why you can't shake it off, because it, whatever you become identified with, it claims to be the one who's identified as. Yes.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, you're in the water a lot, then your head becomes a surfer, and then you may be in the water, and if someone else catches a wave that you think was yours, you start arguing, hey, what, that was my wave, and all this shit comes up. And then the vibe in the water changes, which is a super drag when you've loved the ocean for so long, and then there's aggressive violence in the water. It's a real bummer. But this is what happens. There's the act of being identified jumps to whatever you become identified as, being, let's say, a recovered person now, whatever. It gloms on whatever hole that you get in. Yeah. Whatever boat is going to glom onto the hull. And it's a difficult, it's not like it happened one day and it's going to stop happening another day. It's always presenting that view. Yeah. Now, without knowing it, it has its most power over us. With knowing it, it needs the losing interest in self to really bring about a change. Yeah. Yeah, because you can still stay identified as self going from addiction to sobriety. Yeah, it will adapt to the sober life. It will. It's a very adaptable parasitical movement. So, uh, loss of interest is the effect of the BALM of the program, the bomb of the program put on our life. Its working is a loss of interest in self. Yeah. And if you want to have some experiences of that and you're young in recovery, really look at the value of service. It will give you a lot of free samples. Yeah. So, uh, yeah, because a lot of our skin is an identification as stuff. Yeah. What we take ourselves to be is like a patchwork of this and that. And yet what underneath it is the real glory, so to speak. The head says never to go there, but it's really the glory. Yeah. So, yeah. Yes, that's it, honey. Yes. We
And
ourselves.
that's why I keep going into the prisons and into the mental institutions.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're wise, not you, but there's wisdom about the maintenance of your new condition, which is now your only condition. Yes. You'll be one of the smartest ones. When I, when I, a lot of people looked at service and commitments as a chore. The people I followed really saw the value in service and commitment. Yeah. They knew exactly they were getting a lot of relief when they signed up for this stuff. Yeah, and I was in that camp. That was it was obvious I was getting relief from the bondage of self by putting myself to be used. Yeah. Yeah. And here we are, actually. It's same. It's the same spirit. Yeah. Yeah. To me, that's just wisdom when you find something that works. Yeah. It's like here, you're getting older, and so my back is starting to bother me. So instead of signing up and going to a doctor or something, I just do some yoga, a little yoga, and do some stretching. And for all intents and purposes, I don't have a very strong maintenance regimen for my body condition, but it works what I know. I've just learned these few things and I just do them and it keeps on keeping on. The Toyota's still running pretty good. I don't bring it to the garage I'd rather have my own little plan of maintenance I've learned over the years, and it's maintaining it. Same thing with going to the prison and stuff. Yeah, it maintains uh that lightness in the room, yeah, that you're in, the room of your life. Yeah. It makes complete sense. That's the point. Yeah. How are you going to know the bondage of self when you're in it? It's difficult. You need some samples of what it's like to be out of it so you can recognize what it's like to be in it. You can't recognize what it's like to be in it unless you've gotten some shots of being out of it. Yeah, it's like gravity. The best way to learn about gravity is going into an anti-gravity chamber. Then the constant influence of gravity on your body gets lifted, and wow, that's gravity. Yes, that's exactly what it is. So you get these free samples through service to get you a sense of what it's like not to be Paul all day. And it's better than being Paul all day, so to speak. Yes. But I mean, you cannot convince the fish its water is essential to it. It only finds that out when it's flopping on the deck of the boat that it got pulled up on. Yeah. Because it's always in the water. It has no idea that it's in the water, probably. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you want a free sample service. Commitments were great. I remember the first big commitment I took was a Friday night secretary thing. And my head was, that's going to take me off the fucking playing field for 6 months. I need Friday night to meet babes and shit like that. But I said, all right, I'm going to do it. And it was great, man. It was 6 months great. It was fantastic. So I would just do stuff and it would be proven. Oh, this is working, man. There was no need to have a discussion and just went on and on. Yeah. Can you imagine if I had 6 months of Friday nights to do what I wanted? I probably would have been in jail again, for sure. This shit would have happened. So, yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, thank
Um,
you, Nikki. Yeah.
I don't see any hands. If anybody has a comment or a question, raise your virtual hand and we'll have you
Well,
come
if
on
not, I'm
in.
going to go to page 66 and just state, where was it? No, 68. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance has failed us? You can't get a much clearer diagnosis than that. Yeah. It doesn't let us say what we think is causing the fear. It would have been a 900-page book or more. It's basically, it rushes in and gives us its answer, which is, isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? Yeah, there you go. Everyone's gives fear a huge cause, but it's really an effect of self-reliance. Yeah. What we're talking about fear. We're not talking about the emotion of fear. We're talking about that chronic unease that comes from relying on something that's not reliable, really. And then the mental anxiety just fucking stokes it. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. So isn't it because self-reliance has failed you? Check that out. Has it? That's the cause of the anxiety. It's not fear. Fear is the instrument that conveys the note, but what's causing it is self-reliance. That's the diagnosis. It's right out of the book. Yeah. What would be the greatest form of self-reliance? Being identified as self, don't you think? You couldn't become more relied on something than taking it to be you. That's a pretty far level of reliance. Yeah. So the act of being identified as self is really the current that keeps the bondage of self going. Yeah. Yeah. That's our humble adding on to it. Yeah. But it's right there. Isn't it because self-reliance has failed us? Isn't it? Or no? If you believe self-reliance hasn't failed, it has, but it doesn't, it could succeed, well, go ahead and see what happens. It will prove over and over again it's going to fail. That's its great value, really. Yeah. That's its great value. The collapse of its effects lead us to maybe question the cause. Yeah. some people that everything's going well, they're not probably getting moved to these questions because they think in self-reliance is great. I got the car in the driveway. I got this, blah, blah, blah. The people next door to me are starving. Well, fuck that. Who cares? You know, on and on. All's going well. Yeah. They're not going to sit down and ask you anything. They think they know anything, everything. Yeah. So by self-reliance failing you, it's the greatest movement to the other side, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, if that's that, then we'll start saying goodbye.
Well, no, Tom has his hand up.
Oh, I'll bring in Tom. I
Come
was
on,
going to
Tom.
address the natural catastrophe, but now I'll address Tom.
Hi,
I hope.
Paul. Good to see you.
Good to
I
see
just wanted to share my experience. I just have just under 4 years of sobriety coming up here in this next month. And then I really struggled the first 18 months, 2 years. The past year and a half has been very different. I started following you, and I resistantly did my 4-step, not knowing that there was this more fear that I would reveal things that I didn't want to look at. And you talked about uprooting the root. I really, really love your book, Under Arrest. And so I've read this and I have so much highlighted because so much is just so key to the shift for me that happened. But it talks about, it says, once you realize that the drinking and using are symptoms, then you start to see the root of the problem is that you are the problem. And once you start telling the truth about being the problem, there is another place it can take you. Now, I didn't know the place it would take me because I had no spiritual condition. And when they talked about a daily reprieve from maintaining this spiritual condition, I didn't have anything to maintain. I only had the mental condition, which I relied on, obviously, for 51 years. So when I did my 4-step, yeah, I had some relief from it. I would share it, gave me some relief. But the weight of that, sober, the amount of anxiety it caused, definitely an ongoing restlessness, irritability, and discontent. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I was sober, doing everything good, but man, I was just really uncomfortable. And you say that that place is when you thoroughly own what you are not, then what you are not will become obvious. And so for me, when I looked at my whole resentment list, it wasn't apparent that the fear was driving my irritability, the fear of what was not happening, all the anxiety of what was not happening, living in the then and the there. And I had glimpses of that my whole life. Wherever I would go, I wanted to be somewhere else. I could never be there because whenever I was here, I was there. Those things just didn't click until I'd been watching you and listening and doing some work for about a year with my sponsor who knows the solution. So once it hit, I read Radical Freedom. I'm like, man, this sounds amazing. I needed radical freedom because my freedom that I had as self, being bonded to self, was not freedom. It was more self. As Tom tried to get away from Tom and look at my resentments, it was more uncomfortable than ever. And I had no relief. So I was on this constant seeking to get relief from thought. And so when it just landed one day, it was just a strange time, but it landed one day and everything just kind of opened up. And it was as if I had been transported to a different place. And I had this fear I would be stuck in this knowing of how infinite things were and how I was just nothing to this world. And then about a week later, I came back in Tom. And so I didn't get stuck there, but now it's just been kind of an in and out. And you talk about the volume of the thoughts, and they still happen. They still go. The mind still goes. I can see it. But when things hit the fan, there's the knowing that I'm okay. Initially, I looked at it like Tom was the separate crazy guy, or this mind that just went. And I wanted relief from that. And I see now that the self will continuously try to be itself. And I just get some freedom from that. So I just, I wish I had this book initially, but at the same time, it happened when it happened, man, and I wasn't ready for radical freedom. But if you want the radical freedom, this book, everything you talk about your personal experience is so relatable. This mental denial and all the things I pushed away, man, they were more than ever when I looked at them sober, and I lived with that until I could open up the possibility that maybe there's more to the self. So I had to look at it like there was the small self, but that's not all I was, because you talked about that's not you. It's not me. It's not me. It's not all that I am. And that started this viewing from way back, removing all my experiences. What was left was what I was. And that's what hit me one day. And, I have a tremendous amount of freedom, some gap, but it's in and out. But I don't have the feeling like I'm fucked all the time. I just want to thank you, man. If you're in recovery and you haven't looked at Under Arrest, and then go back and read the big book, it reads different. Like the word ourselves, separating it out. Look at it driving us, seeing that fear drove everything. It drove all my anxiety, and therefore I was just a passenger on that crazy bus. So yeah, I love it when you can talk about that. If you can, a quick short blurb on uprooting the root, which is what you think you are, and how that relates to this is key to recovery for me. It was just huge. And so just want to thank you for that, Paul. That's it. Good to see you.
Yeah, the only root that you could uproot is a false root. Yeah. So this is the thing. There's a root that's a false root. There's a much larger root system below it, around it, over it. And so you uproot the root of the disease, so to speak. And the root of the disease is reliance on self. As they just said in What's the Cause of All the Anxiety? It's self-reliance. So that is the false root that everything else has grown out of and everything else is seen from. Now you have new eyes and new ears and you're hearing new. Yeah. So you can uproot that root. Yes, for sure. The thing is, it's sort of like if your blindness was based on a pair of glasses and those glasses were taken to be your eyes, the possibility, which would be readily available just to remove the glasses, would never be available to you because you take them to be your eyes. Yeah, you're never even checking out. But once you feel it and, oh, wait a minute, these aren't me, the next possibility is I can take them off. Exactly. But if you think these eyes, like in the Course in Miracles says, these eyes that see the world are not your eyes. Yeah, your eye is, they call it the third eye and stuff, but is awareness. So that is the root that can uproot all the other roots. Yes, yes. So yeah. And Under Arrest we did a thing a long time ago. A Swedish guy set it up. I never even met him, but he got a guy who I used to see surfing. He didn't know it was going to be me, but we did a video called the Reflections on the 12 Steps. So sat there for 5 hours or something and did this video. I don't know when, in the 90s or something. And then we put that out, and that's what we wrote the book based on those videos on Under Arrest. Yeah, because people wanted me to write a book on it. So that's where it came from. But yeah, it's just it's not like this way replaces the way. The way is recovery. This way, I believe, will illuminate the way. Yeah. Whatever path you're on, these ideas can illuminate it. It doesn't play the role of a path in and of itself. It's just an illumination of whatever path you're on. Yes. That's to me how I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, yeah. So, yeah. Well, thank you, man. I'm so happy that if I had any uh, like desire for having an effect, you just voiced it. So great. I've been successful. So
Awesome. I love it.
that's great. So
It gives me hope. This is the only way that I can get out of Tom as well, seeing that I'm not Tom.
that's right. The only way out is not being in.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's how it worked with me too. I mean, I tried to get out a lot, obviously. And it never dawned on me to question, am I in? It never did until I did, and that opened a new door that was readily there. I just didn't see it. And yeah, so but part of uh it's part of its being in is you wanting to get out. That's
Yeah.
the biggest in. So all our drives to get out is making a reality of the idea that you're in.
Yeah.
I mean, because the only thing that can fool reality is reality, and we are actually reality. And then something is talking to us. That's why false evidence appearing real is based on that false evidence is appearing real to reality, me, to Paul. So Paul imagines it to be real because it's reality. False evidence cannot make itself appear real. It's false evidence.
Yeah.
Me listening to it in a certain way allows it to appear real. It does. If I believe it, it's going to appear real to me. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. This is like 101 of what's before all the stuff we think is before, which is mind. Mind is before this place. Mind is before the things you experience. You're having a subjective experience. So what you meet, you give name and form to. Yeah. Because the tree is not shouting it's a tree to you. It isn't. I do not walk by and I hear a whisper from the elm. I'm an elm. It doesn't do that. Yeah. It's just like I see things and there's form and name given to them. And this is it's like a dream world, literally. Yeah. And whatever. That's come to the other talks. That's
Yeah, I just notice the resistance, the ego, the self it's constantly putting up some resistance nonstop because itself wants to maintain itself. It wants to be relied on. And I can feel that. And so I share that I do notice the resistance of self. It's nonstop trying to keep calm in it because it doesn't want to think there's another, but it's just amazing when you can see that, holy shit, without experience, when I first wake up, that's it. And then there goes Tom. Well, I don't know if this is going to be working today or boy, it's all self. It's just nonstop. So I just kind of tune it down a little bit. And I share that it's this ongoing resistance that is lessening to a degree. It's ongoing. The head just keeps going, man.
It's going to lessen, bro, because it's recovery is progressive also, just like they say the disease progresses, recovery progresses. Yeah.
It's changing for sure. Yeah.
Once the cat's out of the bag, things happen. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna keep coming back.
I thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks, Tom. And
thanks,
you
everyone.
have a
this
beautiful
has to
dog.
this has to be full disclosure. Tom is a cousin of my sister-in-law, and I send him a check every week to
Man, there's a
write a
radical
testimonial.
there's a radical freedom. It's and I still resist. The head still fights, but it's just amazing radical freedom, man. If you want,
Yes,
but you'll go as long as you go until you get tired.
You're on the winning side, bro. Yeah. So when you're on the winning side, losses are successes. You're on the winning side.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't, the way the losing side reads battles and everything, it's like it harps on a big win, but it loses the war. So basically, you're on the winning side.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Anyone else?
And yeah, But
got-
when Tom was talking about resistance, when you think about our relationship, our Zen bitch slap relationship, you take the R, the resistance, out of that relationship and it becomes relationship.
I like it.
Oh,
Boom.
he's getting going tonight. He's cooking with gas.
Maggie has her hand up, Paul.
All right. Come on in, Matt.
Hey, Maggie. Yeah, I found myself on Tuesday with the book. We have my old books back at home. I'm at our desert cabin, so there's like a pristine big book that I left here, so I'm having fun marking it up. So I found myself underlining self on Tuesday, and today it was fear. And then when early on today, you were addressing that we be seen as it, so to separate from the fear, which is actually anxiety. And so then I found myself amused with looking at the underlined word fear and putting anxiety in its place. And like sometimes it really helps to just change a word. And I got great clarity. So I'll be doing that later again. But that was really, yeah, it's semantics, but it helps me.
Well, that's how the head is made.
Yeah.
It has, see, you go to the right locksmith, you'll get the keys to open up the head. Yes?
Hmm.
Yes. And the idea, see, the funny thing is, it's the self that's bitching about the fear, but the self is the cause of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So it plays the role that it's the effect of it, but it's actually the cause of it. It's a trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it starts telling you how to change the effect that it's the cause of, which is more of the effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to push this mental anxiety because in our community, fear gets thrown around a lot. And I don't feel the everyday version of fear is not that. It's mental anxiety. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It's
I was
clearer, I feel. Yeah.
I do hospice care, and I guess I'm getting called on. It's been my 4th hospice care, and it was a bipolar. I can't think of all of his diagnosis. West South African member of AA at 40 something years sober, and he was steeped in anxieties, and here he asked me to get him home to die or to get better. And I say, okay, this was in June. And so I helped him get back to his apartment. I would want to get back home if I were taken in an ambulance, and then I got to witness, and I'm good with dementia, but the anxiety, the insanity, I don't know that I would take this on again. So he asked me if I would start talking to his sponsor because I could see clearly, the creation of this sadness, this anxiety thing. So it's been a long haul. He passed away peacefully on November 5th. So I'm at our desert cabin regrouping and going, whoa, what was that? But it was a huge lesson, and all you speak about. And it's a miracle he stayed sober. This program is really amazing. And then I had one other thought that I have 6 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 8, Catholic family. And this is our remnant of our family, is this old homestead in Coachella. But we feel such freedom here on the weekends. We grew up in Alhambra, and my brother Steve, I'd say, well, back to the real world. I'm 10 years old going, I don't want to leave. None of us want to go back. And he'd go, you need to check out what the real world is, Meg.
Yeah.
Because we create this whole thing around, anxieties around school and city. And so I would carry some of the desert back home with me. He was a great brother to have.
Oh,
Thanks.
great. Yes, yes. That's the funny thing when the truly unreal world is always harped as the real world.
Totally. Totally.
It's incredible. We're like advertisements. We're walking around advertising a mental product all day. Unbeknownst to us, we're we've signed up with Nike. It's insane. So yeah, thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Yeah. I like it down there too. We go down to Joshua Tree a lot, so yeah.
If you ever get a chance, in the 80s, the Nature Conservancy came into this canyon, Thousand Palms Canyon, and they bought every old homestead they could, and they went with the BLM and they created a 20 square mile nature preserve, and finally everyone sold but us. So we're 5 acres and beautiful hiking trails. There's 1,000 people a day on Easter, you know, out. We can't see them, thank God. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Oasis, the Palm Oasis here. So Coachella Valley Nature Preserve.
All right,
So
good. Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. Maybe we'll see it in January. All right, well, come back and we'll talk more, Maggie. Eh?
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. All right, well, we're gonna say goodbye now. I think Mickey,
That's it.
great job, great job as always. Michael, Stacy, I feel like feel like I've had a good breakfast. Eh, that's nice, very good. Thank you all. Axel, nice to see you. Annette, we got Betty in Nevada. Nice to see you, Betty. John in Florida. Kathleen, not in Delaware, but in Pennsylvania. Nick Rowe, Toronto. Eileen, Angela, Simi Valley. Oh, Tom in Tacoma, Washington. Joseph, our friend in France. Stephen Mack. Oliver, why do I say where they are? I don't know. I just like it. Berlin, yes. Saraswati, she's in some transcendent spell here. There she is. I think she's in East Coast, Carolinas. Will Harrison, down in the down in New Orleans. I saw. Nice to see you, Will. And Tom, I can't go to the other page, whatever. But hey, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll be here again Saturday, 1 o'clock Pacific time on Zoom and live at the house here. And thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to sit with everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul.